You're watching E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Share and subscribe.
Hey guys, welcome to Entertainment Talk Nation. This is Rob. This video, we're going to do our review for AEW as well as NXT. It was a very exciting Wednesday night, and I was going to do two separate reviews for these shows and then a comparison video, but I'm just going to put everything into one. I didn't want to do so many videos, so we're going to keep this as short as possible, and we're going to start off with AEW. So the first match saw Cody Rhodes up against Sammy Guevara, and quite frankly, this was a very solid opening for the show. I thought these two went at it pretty well, and the best part about this is that it had stakes, right? So if Cody lost, it kind of messes up his shot for the title. And then, of course, if he won, then he goes on to face Jericho, which he did win this match. Much credit to his wife, Brandy, who took a bump during this match when Sammy pushed her in the way of a suicide dive by Cody. The match started off pretty much on the mat with the wrestling, but then it got a little bit more high-flying, a little bit more high-paced. And what I do like about this match as well is that Cody made Sammy look very strong. He had to beat him with a roll-up, so I thought it was a good way to open the show, and a solid match nonetheless. But then the crazy thing happened where Chris Jericho comes out, beats up on Cody Rhodes, and this probably goes a little bit longer than it needs to. I mean, we went to commercial, then we come back, and Jericho's still beating his butt. And then the odd thing is that Aubrey, the ref, during the match is the only ref there, and she just looks like she can't do anything to stop Jericho, where a lot of other matches in all wrestling promotions, you know, WWE, whatever, when something like this happens, you have multiple refs coming out. So it didn't make much sense to me. I do think the beat up went a little bit too long. And then what made it worse was that later, and we'll talk about this, there was a brawl between SCU and the Lucha Bros, and every ref came out. So it just kind of made the beatdown that Jericho gave Rhodes a little stupid, that there was one ref, nobody else came out to help her. And then later there's another brawl where all the refs come out. So just weird stuff. Next, we had a match between MJF, who I love. I love good heels, and he is a great heel. And now that he's going to be on TV, I really think this guy is going to gain in popularity really quick. And he goes up against Brandon Cutler. Wasn't a fan of this match. I don't know if the match ended soon because of the botch that Cutler had on the top rope, or if it was meant to be that way. To me, I can't call it. But basically, I mean, Cutler looked strong early. He had a couple of high-flying moves off the ropes and all that stuff, and then he went to the top rope. He buckled and fell, and he looked like he hurt his knee, and then shortly thereafter, he got submitted by MJF, and while MJF's promo was great and the match started off good, it kind of ended abruptly, and again, I don't know if it was because he really did sincerely hurt himself because of the botch or what, but I can't give this a high grade. I thought it was very short. I wanted to see more of MJF. Botches, I don't like criticizing botches because, you know, these guys are doing incredible moves at incredible times. And all I'm saying is that if he wasn't legitimately injured, then maybe the match goes a little bit longer. But I don't know. I can't tell. But it wasn't a good follow-up to what we just got between Rhodes and Guevara. So shortly thereafter, then we get Jay and Silent Bob, or Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes, who were in the crowd. Now, I spotted them earlier, so I was kind of curious if they were going to point something out or if they were going to point the fact out that they were there. But not only did they do that, but apparently it was a bit of a little small promo for the upcoming Jay and Silent Bob movie, I guess, in which Chris Jericho has a spot in that movie. So that was pretty cool. And then Angelico and Jack Evans come out, and they kind of banter back and forth with Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes. And then Private Party comes out to break it up, and then things go from there. Then we move to a promo by SCU where they're outside in front of the White House. Two guys are dressed up as Secret Service, and Scorpio Sky is doing a pretty good impression of Barack Obama. I was pretty surprised. Then it cuts back to the arena where SoCal Uncensored is there, and they're kind of, you know, talking smash. And then the Lucha Brothers come out, Rey Fenix and Pentagon Jr. More banter back and forth, then a big brawl. And this is what I was referring to earlier. When all the refs came out to break this up, everybody came out to break this up. So pretty cool spot, no biggie. And that's pretty much setting up and building up the tag team tournament that's going to start next week. And this is probably one of the strongest things about AEW. They have a great tag team division. So I'm really looking forward to checking that out next Wednesday. So then the next match was Pac versus Hangman Page. Clearly, in my opinion, the best match of the night, hands down. It was a good length match. The crowd was into it. Pac obviously showing all his skills as well as Hangman Page. It was very entertaining to watch. The ending was a little weird. I mean, Hangman got hit with the Black Arrow and then was set up right there with the Brutalizer from Pac. He didn't appear to tap, but Hebner called the match anyway. But either way, looks like they're starting to build up Pac in turn. He's undefeated right now. Hangman Page seems to be going into his own slump. So, but this was the best match of the night, easily. And I really enjoyed it. I like Hangman Page a lot. So yeah, this just really, really solid match. Then we got the Women's Championship, and this to me was the weakest match of the night. Even though the MJF Cutler match was very short and unsatisfying in my opinion, this match just didn't do it for me. So we have Nyla Rose versus Riho. It was a little bit longer than I think it should have been. And there were a lot of mistakes here. And again, I hate to criticize that, but if it keeps happening in a match over and over, it could really take you out of it. Now, the crowd was much more forgiving than I was. And in the end, from a story perspective, it was really good. The whole David versus Goliath type deal. And it was a little surprising for me. I did not expect Riho to win, but she came away with the victory. And then shortly after the match, she was about to be interviewed. Nyla Rose came out, and Nyla Rose almost killed this dude, Mike. I mean, just again, this match, from not only the match, but even to the end, had so many mistakes. And Nyla Rose is known for having a lot of botches, potentially hurting people. And she almost killed this dude. Luckily, she righted the wrong. She got him up, and she gave him a Liger Bomb. Again, the weakest match of the night. I wasn't very impressed. I like Riho, from what I've seen of her. She's so petite, sometimes it's hard to be convinced that she's capable of anything, but nonetheless, in terms of performing, she's great, a lot of fun to watch. And I'm glad she got the belt first, even though I was like, okay, how's she going to beat Nyla Rose? But I went with it. Story-wise, it was good. But in terms of performance, obviously Riho is a very good in-ring performer. Nyla Rose, oof, I don't know, man. And that's not to criticize her because of what happened on Twitter. That has nothing to do with it. She's a great presence, but she's got to kind of fine-tune some of her skills. So overall, not too crazy about this match. There was some great spots. Story-wise, it was a great story. But in terms of performance, it just wasn't that good. And then finally, we get the main event, which is Chris Jericho, Santana, and Ortiz, formerly known as LAX, against the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. This is going to sound crazy. I wasn't exactly hot for this match. Not that... here's the thing. Here's how I see it. This is your first show. These are some of your big stars: Jericho, Omega, the Young Bucks. You got these new stars coming in Ortiz and Santana. And then we get Moxley to come in very early in the match. And what this does is it splits up the main event. So now, on one hand, I got to see Moxley and Omega, fine. But then I'm missing out on the Young Bucks. And then, after Moxley sends Omega through a glass table with a DDT, then we switch back to the ring. And, look, I get it. It's your first big show. You want to get people riled up. You bringing Jon Moxley back, that was a great idea. Maybe we could have done that in a different way. It just took away from a match I really wanted to see. One of the things I enjoy about AEW wrestlers and some of their events is getting to see some of these performers, some of these athletes do some of these incredible moves in some of these longer matches. They had TV time, so they had more than 20 minutes to do this match. And I really wanted to see Omega and the Young Bucks work together, the high-flying action and all that. And I really wanted to get a better look at Ortiz and Santana as well. But again, when you start breaking things up and then you switch from one camera to the next, that kind of takes, for me at least, it took me out. So this wasn't as good a result as I would have wanted. I wanted a straight up match. You know what I mean? It's not to say that it wasn't fun to watch, because it was, but I'm like, I really wanted to see Omega and the Young Bucks. And so it's kind of like a 6-1, half a dozen to the other thing for me. Yes, it was cool. It was a lot of fun. It was crazy, but it took away from a match, an actual match that I wanted to see. But then things get crazier. After the Young Bucks, who were outnumbered, were basically beaten, then we have a very WCW reminiscent, everybody comes running in, and I'm like, I got to say, it didn't end very strong in my opinion, because the big reveal was Jack Swagger, who's now Jake Hager, his real name, I suppose. Not the kind of payoff. I would have rather seen a complete match between these 6 men than have a big brawl at the end only to reveal Jack Swagger. I mean, it's not exactly the kind of reveal that I get excited about. Now, look, there might be some Jack Swagger fans out there, and that's perfectly fine. You're more than entitled to that. But yeah. But overall, I thought it was a solid beginning. I thought it was a solid beginning run, I should say. I thought it was a solid start to AEW's run on TV. It was very entertaining to watch. It was very exciting. In fact, looking at some reviews and stuff like that, I got to say some people are a little bit more forgiving than I am. And I think that's because of the hype behind it, and everybody's excited because now we're getting wrestling 3 times a week. We got another company. Now there's competition. How will WWE do? But I got to be honest, while it was a great start, there's still a lot to improve. I will say their production value was a lot better than I expected, because there were some camera angles that even I had never. They had a one shot with the Pac and Hangman Page match. There was actually an aerial shot that I thought was really cool. And then they had the turnbuckle shot, so that was really cool. So, I think the production value was a lot better than I expected, and I thought the overall show was a lot of fun. But I don't think it was as good as some people are making it out to be. There's still a lot of improvements, but nonetheless, I'm looking forward to the future. All right, so now we move on to NXT on Wednesdays, and that was a busy Wednesday night. Because first I was watching both shows at the same time, and then I watched them both separately, because I'm like, I can't review them if I watch them both at the same time, because there's no way I could pay attention. So NXT kicked it off right out the gate with the championship match with Adam Cole versus Matt Riddle. This was a very good match. Very hard hitting with the striking of Matt Riddle, and then of course the technicality from Adam Cole. I mean, these two just went at it, and my God. And one of the things that I love about NXT is they have this way of really setting up these close pinfalls that get you like, oh my God, it's so close, and then the kick out. That seems to be their bread and butter at times, and the crowd really gets into it. In the end, Adam Cole retains, and just as he's cutting a promo, boom, or it looks like he was about to cut a promo, Finn Balor comes out, and Finn Balor confirms that he's back with NXT. And you know what? That's good. That's a good thing. You know why? Because he was not being utilized well on the main roster, and they love him in NXT. And you know what? I think he'll probably be happier there. So I thought this was a great move, and I'm very happy that he's going to be back in NXT. And really, they kind of needed him because, outside of a very small handful of wrestlers, I mean, who are you going to put up against Adam Cole? I mean, Matt Riddle obviously is one of them. We've already seen the rivalry between him and Johnny Gargano, so you don't want to revisit that. And then once we talk about the end of the show, there's obviously another wrestler. We'll get into that. Then next we get Velveteen Dream coming out. He does a promo challenging Roderick Strong to the North American Championship. One title that he's very fond of. He held it for a good amount of time. Look, Velveteen Dream, when he comes out, he just demands your attention. He's very charismatic, and he's a lot of fun to watch. So I'll be looking forward to that match down the road. Next match on the card was Io Shirai versus Mia Yim. And this was a really good match. A little surprised. Now, I like Io Shirai. I've been kind of lukewarm towards Mia Yim at this point. But the match overall was good. If I had to give it any criticism, was that it was really long. And to give you an example, there was a point that, and this was my first viewing, when I was watching both AEW and NXT at the same time, I had gotten up, I made eggs, I warmed up some food, I went to the bathroom, came downstairs, got my food. They were still fighting. In fact, their fight was towards the end, I believe, of one AEW match and was still continuing while another AEW match was beginning. So it was a very long bout, which, look, in some terms, that's a good thing. It shows how much endurance these two ladies have. And I love Io Shirai. I mean, and I loved her heel turn when it happened some time ago. So I thought it was a solid match overall, just a little bit too long for my taste, but these ladies did a fantastic job. I gotta say, I mean, there was only one women's match on AEW this night. But that match did not top either one of the two women's matches on NXT. I just want to say that right now. So, but look, fun match. It was fantastic. Physicality, the endurance shown, just a little bit too long for my taste. But in the end, after a long, brutal match, Shirai comes out with the victory. So good for her. Next match on the card was Johnny Gargano versus Shane Thorne. This was a solid match. You know, it wasn't too long. I think it was more to highlight Shane a little bit. Obviously, Johnny Gargano, they love him in NXT. I love Johnny Gargano. I think he's fantastic. It was a good, solid match. Some hard-hitting strikes. And again, Johnny Gargano comes away with the win, but Shane Thorne, I thought, looked very strong in this match. And I think that was the point of it, was to really kind of sell him and introduce him to the audiences and stuff like that. So a solid match on the card. No complaints on my end. It wasn't too long. It's just a good match, and Johnny Gargano comes away with the victory. Next match was the Women's Championship, NXT Championship, Shayna Baszler versus Candice LeRae, and this was a lot of fun. And, you know, I love Shayna Baszler on one hand, but on the other hand, I'm like, when is she going to lose this belt? And every time she has a match, especially this one, probably the biggest, the most times that I was suckered into thinking she was going to lose. But there's always that turnaround where she gets the submission. And this match, look, Candice LeRae looked fantastic. There was a point that she did like 3 straight suicide dives off the bottom rope, or the mid rope, I should say, onto Shayna. Looked solid. They were going back and forth. It was just such a great performance. Again, Shayna Baszler is great. This is one of the few times I've gotten to see Candice LeRae. I haven't seen her wrestle very much. I always seem to miss her when she's wrestling. So it was nice to see her, you know, again for the first time in a little bit. And for me, like I said, for me personally. And I thought it was just very entertaining. I really, really thought Candice was going to come away with the title, especially when she got out of the submissions like several times. And usually when that happens, that's a sign that the person that's getting out of it, you know, in this case, the baby face, is going to win the match. But that wasn't the case. There was like a 4th time that Shayna put on her submission, and this time Candice LeRae couldn't get out of it. But man, it was a great match. I enjoyed it a great deal. And I'm looking forward to seeing. I figured Baszler would lose and maybe she'd debut on SmackDown or she'd get drafted onto one of the shows. I thought that'd be a good time for that, but no, they're gonna keep her there. So, so she's gonna hold the belt, I think. But I think it's time for her to let it go, you know, or it's time for them to have her let it go. I mean, she's proven that she's just fantastic. But the match was great. So no complaints. Shayna Baszler retains the title. Next match, we get Pete Dunne versus Danny Burch. UK Strong Style, as you guys know. Look, another solid match. Now, Danny Burch, not too familiar with, not really, I'm kind of lukewarm to him, but it's not because I think he's bad. It's because I've only seen him a handful of times, where Pete Dunne I've seen a number of times. I loved his match with Walter, and I would like to see more of Danny Burch. I thought it was a good match, and Pete Dunne comes away with the victory. So we'll see if we get to see Danny Burch on NXT a little bit more going forward. So finally, the final match on the card was the Tag Team Championship between the Undisputed Era and the Street Profits, which I love the Street Profits. They're just so much fun and very talented in the ring. All 4 of these men are just great to watch. And it was a fantastic tag team match. And in the end, it took Roderick Strong to come in and interfere a little bit to kind of throw things off. And Undisputed Era retains, I should say, the tag team titles. Adam Cole comes out to celebrate with them. They're all holding up their titles. And then, boom, who would come out but Tommaso Ciampa? Now, look, I'm not sure if he's 100% healed. He might have a couple more weeks where he has to come back before he can come back and do anything physical. So he didn't come out and beat up Cole. He just kind of came out. They were sizing each other up, talking smash. And I think it was a great way to end. The crowd went ballistic. And, you know, if he's only going to be out for a couple more weeks, then there's no problem with bringing him in to kind of get people amped up that his return is soon to come. And then in the middle of that, you still got Finn Balor that's back. You know, I'm sure the rivalry between Adam Cole and Matt Riddle hasn't gone away. So I think bringing him back for this particular show on what's obviously a very competitive night between AEW and NXT and WWE, I thought it was a good move. So now we're going to get into my final decision on who had a better night, who in my opinion won tonight. Okay, so AEW and NXT, so who had the better night? Well, in the end of it all, look, I'm not a big WWE fan. I've been very annoyed with how they run things. Now, I love NXT. I think some of the matches on NXT are just great. And I've had a lot of fun watching AEW from the moment they've started their pay-per-views late last year to the lead up of their debut show tonight. And if I'm going to be honest here, completely unbiased, I got to go with NXT. I thought the match quality was better. The female matches were far and away better than the Nyla Rose Riho match. I thought while the first match for AEW was very strong with Cody Rhodes and Sammy Guevara, I thought the Adam Cole and Matt Riddle match was a lot better. And when you look at the ending of the show in terms of what AEW did, to me, it was just a bigger pop to have Tommaso Ciampa come back than it was to have Jack Swagger enter AEW. I think AEW did well in terms of highlighting some of the wrestlers they have there and not overcompensating with a lot of Omega, Young Bucks, and, Cody obviously started the night. But at the same time, you don't want to completely ignore those guys. I mean, I wanted to see a good match between those 6 men. And while the whole, like I said before, while the whole breakup was great and we got Moxley there and all this, I think if I'm a new viewer, I want to see what it is you're bringing to the table. What is it about these guys that are elite? As someone who's already been watching it, it was fine. But if I got fair is fair, and I want to look at it from a general audience perspective because that's what these guys are going after. And in terms of quality wrestling matches, I got to go with NXT. I do. Their matches were overall better. There weren't a lot of craziness going on. You know what I mean? Yes, Finn Balor came back. That was short and sweet. Tommaso Ciampa came back. That was short and sweet. We had one run-in with the Undisputed Era at the end. Again, just certain things. And then you go to AEW and you have Jericho comes in and beats up Cody. And then you have the ending where everybody's out there and Sammy Guevara, Jack Swagger coming back and all this and all that, and then again, it was fun to watch. They did a great job for their first show, but if I'm going to judge it by the wrestling, I got to go with NXT. And I think NXT overall just presented better. I thought it finished stronger. It didn't do anything crazy. It brought back out one of its more popular wrestlers in NXT and the crowd went nuts, where AEW kind of felt like a little bit WCW at the end. And while that might be good because WCW, I'm sure, as you know, at some point back in the mid-90s were running the wrestling scene, I don't think that's the greatest comparison to have for your first show is it ended like a WCW show. So that's just me. So, but I think AEW should definitely, they have great wrestling talent, but I just think overall NXT did a better job. It felt more compact in terms of any of the extra activity that they put onto their show was very straight and to the point, where the extra activity for AEW was just, sometimes it was a little too much. Like the Jericho beatdown made complete sense from a story standpoint, but it went through the commercial, and even after the commercial, it still went on for a couple more minutes. Then we got the SoCal Uncensored. Yes, they were outside in front of the White House, but then you bring them back into the arena. Then they get into a brawl. It's like, So, but again, that's just my opinion. I just think NXT did better overall for this first Wednesday where they were both up against each other. But I think next Wednesday, AEW is going to take the title because they got a couple of tag team matches coming, and that's one strong suit they have over WWE overall. NXT tag teams are pretty good, but overall, I think AEW has a better tag team division. So I think AEW has the opportunity to take the crown next Wednesday when it comes down to Wednesday night comparisons. Anyway, I hope you guys liked this review. Let me know in the comments, who do you think had a better show if you managed to watch them both? And until next video, this is Rob signing off for E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Take it easy.